Hey everyone, Amari Records here, and today we're going to be going through what I believe are the two best albums from every year of the 2020s decade so far. So first up, 2020, I feel like this is a super underrated year. You had a bunch of quality releases, looking at something like The Allegory from Royce da 5'9", where you were getting these really thought-provoking subjects covered by one of the best lyricists of all time, but then you're also getting these crazy rapping performances on something like I Don't Age, great collaborations with Westside Gunn on Overcomer, or even Conway, who, speaking of Conway, he had Lulu come out with The Alchemist, and The Alchemist, what a run he had in 2020. But just quickly to go over Lulu, which is another honorable mention for me, that's like one of the grimiest, grittiest albums I've ever heard. Those two are a match made in heaven. Getting something like Shoot Sideways with Schoolboy Q as well. It was just a match made in heaven between the production, Conway's raps, and curation as well. Nice, concise album. M popped out for speaking about great lyricists as well. Music to Be Murdered By, which is an insanely solid album from him this decade. Mac Miller's Circles, which I would consider to say that's one of the best hip-hop albums of 2020, but I don't really know if you can call it that. So by a technicality, I'm not going to be speaking about that. Pray for Paris, of course. We got to continue to speak about this fucking monumental Griselda run that happened in 2020. Arguably the most iconic Griselda album, I feel like, because of just how many different collaborators it brings in, the quality of the records as well, looking at something like a Versace, getting that Insane J Versace production, but then obviously, you got those big features on there, be that a Freddie on 500 Ounces giving you one of the best performances of his whole career, Tyler and Joey Badass on 327. The album just perfectly shows Westside Gunn's masterful curation, so obviously that had to get an honorable mention, and Burden of Proof, Benny, Hit Boy, the chemistry between Benny and Hit Boy's beats, flawless, so triumphant, almost sounding like a modern day Blueprint. But none of those albums, what I believe, are the two best. In fact, I believe that the two best albums of 2020, let's take one at a time. Main Drum McNichols. I mean, is this a surprise to anyone? Modern day masterpiece. From every single way you look at it, that album is it's mind-blowing. Be that Sterling Tolls production, taking those old Baldy vocals and pairing them with this production that is just so grand, lush, and it's unlike anything else you're hearing in the 2020s. The live instrumentation paired with these vivid pictures that Baldy is giving you, and of course that expert concept woven into the album. While it isn't an album I revisit all that much, it doesn't take away from the quality, because it's not something that I can just be, playing while I'm driving or on the train or something. But it really is a special, special album, and easily one of the best of the decade. But then the other album that I believe to be the best of 2020 is Alfredo by Freddie Gibbs and The Alchemist. Freddie was on an insane run in 2020, but this album is one of the best producer-rapper albums of all time. What more can I say? Look at A God Is Perfect, the cadence that Freddie is rapping at, the strings on 1985 that The Alchemist brought in, the Tyler feature on Something to Rap About, or even the Benny feature on Frank Lucas. Just, you were getting the highest levels of rapping from Freddie and the features, but also the highest levels of production with Alchemist and his sample loops and everything that he does. The minimalist aesthetic is it's just a perfect album in my opinion, and ending on something like All Glass as well. Just incredible album. From start to finish, one of my favorites of the 2020s. 2021. A bit of a quieter year, I feel like, in comparison to 2020 for the underground, but mainstream-wise, it was a very eventful year. But I feel like, for me, it really boils down to two albums. I do have to shout out Nas and what he did with Magic and King's Disease 2. They're very close in contention to the two albums I want to speak about. But again, Hit Boy has been on an absolute tear this decade, and those albums just solidify that for me, because looking at King's Disease 2 and getting songs like Moments with Nas reminiscing on the past, with Nas just sharing memories from his past, or even something like A Death Row East talking about the whole Tupac East Coast West Coast conflict and how him and Tupac were going to do a Death Row East division is crazy. Just the subject matter on that album is ridiculous. And then obviously getting collaborators like Lauryn Hill and Eminem on the album, incredible stuff. Then Magic as well. They were on a mission to prove, no, we really are one of the best producer-rapper duos in recent times, and it really shows. Opening with something like Speechless, just phenomenal rapping performances from Nas all around, 4016 building, and then Wave Gods, of course, with Rocky. One of my favorite tracks of the decade so far, easily. I also got to shout out Sometimes I Might Be Introvert by Little Sims. The song concepts on that album are fucking phenomenal. So is the production with a lot of live instrumentation. Two Worlds Apart is one of my favorite songs of the decade so far. Definitely deserves a shout, and I understand why people would have it as their album of the year for 2021, or even album of the decade, which is what NFR podcasts have. I respect the take, but just personally, I prefer two more albums over it. The first album that I would crown as one of the best of 2021 is Call Me If You Get Lost by Tyler, the Creator. One of the most cinematic and picturesque albums. You really feel like you were on that trip with Tyler and you were caught in the debacle that he's in with his lover. Aside from that killer concept and the drama narration coming in, really giving it that lively feel, like you're back in the 2000s listening to a Gangsta Grillz mixtape. You're just getting such a great assortment of tracks. Be that a Sweet Sweet, I Thought You Wanted to Dance, bringing those soft vibes and incredible performances from both Tyler and Brent Faiyaz, or even going to something like A Hot Wind Blows with Wayne, getting those top tier rapping performances and getting like a prime Wayne feature in 2021, opening up with So Boldier with that West Side Gun beat as well, the Conductor one. Just incredible stuff from Tyler. The world building is unmatched. But the other album that I'd crown as the best of 2021, The Off Season by J. Cole, one of the best like displays of lyricism that we've gotten all decade, perfectly sequenced at 12 tracks. Cole is giving you a really great array of subject matter here as well. You're obviously getting those braggadocious raps on 95 South with like the really cool Cameron intro as well. And you're just getting insane quotables from Cole all throughout the album. Even just looking at that intro, the whole can put an M right on your head, you Luigi brother now, like that is crazy lyricism right there. But like I said, you're getting a wide array of topics covered from Cole, thinking about something like Punching the Clock and talking about the first time he shot a gun when he was younger, or even Let Go My Hand, talking about the acceptance that his kids are going to grow up and be their own people one day. Hunger on Hillside, of course, the beautiful message in that, and applying pressure. Just, having to show that you are at a different level if people are doubting you. Just great stuff from Cole that anybody can take on and better themselves in whatever it is they're doing. All right, 2022. This might have been the hardest year for me to figure out just two albums, so I'm going to bring in three. Quick honorable mention to Logic's Vinyl Days. I feel like that really got overlooked. King's Disease 3 by Nas, obviously just continuing that streak of great chemistry between Nas's rapping and Hit Boy's production, and also the fact that it had 0 features and Nas was able to carry that whole track list by himself and give you songs like Ghetto Reporter in 2022. That far into his career is nuts. So obviously I had to give that a shout out. I also got a shout out Heroes and Villains by Metro Boomin. This album felt like a blockbuster in my ears. Master curation, incredible features from Travis Scott, A$AP Rocky, Takeoff, The Weeknd, you name it. Metro brought them in, and he got the best out of them. But this is the only year I'm going to choose three, because I really can't. The first one I'll speak about is the one that I think is my personal favorite of the year, but then the other two I feel like are neck and neck. So I should just bring them both in. But the first album I want to speak about is Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers by Kendrick Lamar. This is a modern day masterpiece. Conceptually, going through that therapy session with Kendrick and working through those traumas and generational trauma that both him, people in his family, and others have experienced, it's unlike anything you were ever going to hear from any other rapper. And the way Kendrick does it is so tasteful, especially on something like an Auntie Diaries. And I know that song caused a lot of controversy, but the sentiment behind it, no other rapper is coming out and speaking about topics like that. You have to really applaud Kendrick for tackling something like that. But then also looking at something like A Mirror and Kendrick telling you about the importance of putting yourself first in order to grow. Just, there's such gems in this track list, and I hate the fact that it gets overlooked. And obviously, this short little discussion isn't going to do the album justice, but this album, the topics covered with Kendrick's performances as well, it is a masterpiece in every sense of the word. And it genuinely might be my favorite album of the decade so far. I am in awe every time I listen to it. It is so powerful. It really takes a grip on you and forces you to focus on what's being said. The other two albums I wanted to highlight are The Forever Story by Jid and Melt My Eyes See Your Future by Denzel Curry. Now, these two albums I feel like are staples for the decade so far, and also in both of these rappers' careers, because I feel like these are the albums that really pushed them to the levels that they're at now. Looking at the Forever story and what that did for JID and how it blew up past the core hip-hop community, getting surround sound to that huge hit that it was. Like, this is a career-turning album for JID. But even ignoring like the mainstream success, you're getting tracks on here like System, which is so personal, rapping performances like Radar with the whole Avengers Thanos motif woven throughout it, which is genius. Something like A Stars as well with Yasin Bey bringing in that crazy feature at the end. Obviously 2007, great storytelling from JID about his come up, using Cole's career to explain his come up, which is crazy. Like, that's such an amazing concept. But then looking at Melt My Eyes, See Your Future, that is such a vulnerable and well put together listen from every single way you look at it. The jazzy production coming in on something like a Melt Session #1 with Robert Glasper. What a fucking track. And also, of course, what Denzel is talking about. He's being so open, so vulnerable with you. But then also getting something like Walkin', which has this great message packaged into this song that anybody can enjoy, with an incredible hook as well, and production, the beats, which it's so dynamic. Even the posse cut of Ain't No Way, it's so sporadic, and you just don't know who's going to pop in and when, and how long they're going to stay on the track for. Getting little bits from Rico Nasty or JID, it's just fantastic. You're getting so many powerful lines from Denzel throughout the album as well. Just look at something like Angels and go through that. It's a heavy listen, but Denzel does it in a way that's quite digestible and replayable as well. Alright, 2023, this one was kind of easy. I just want to shout out Danny Brown quickly for Quaranta and Scaring the Hose. Such different albums, but it just shows the level of artist he is. Obviously, Scaring the Hose had the JPEG assist, but either way, the vulnerability on something like a Quaranta is something you're not going to see often, and done in that way with such a unique and original perspective, with Danny being very open with his listener and sharing different things. And the outro on that album is just phenomenal. I love it. Tantor as well, getting that great Alchemist production. Again, that's a very sporadic track, which does feel like a spiritual successor to Scaring the Hose, which was so brash and abrasive and in your face, but you're getting bangers on there as well, like a Perfect, Shut Your Bitch Ass Up, Muddy Waters. Peggy and Danny complement each other so well, and I understand why people have that in their top as their album of 2023. But for me, I'll save the big dog till last. The first album I want to speak about, Wadia by Earl Sweatshirt and The Alchemist. Earl has just been on a tear this decade. It's such a well-sequenced album. The chemistry between Alchemist and Earl, they're one of the best producer-rapper duos of the decade so far, easily in my opinion. Looking at something like the strings on a Vince Scully, or the opening with 100 High Street. Just crazy raps from Earl, incredible wordplay as well. Looking at something like Mancala, I Drop Gems like Mancala, like that's just so clever. Also that incredible Vince feature on that song, and the gospel-esque production from Alchemist. Amazing stuff. And looking at Geb, which isn't on streaming, but it's on the physical versions, but you can probably find it on YouTube as well. That is some of the most angelic and just like warm production I've ever heard from Alchemist. It's a shame it's not on streaming, but those of us who have the physical version or can find it on YouTube, I have the album. Oh, Al, if you're somehow watching this, I paid for it, don't worry. But yeah, you were finding some of the best beats of the decade so far on that album. But my other favorite album of 2023, I don't think this is a big surprise, Utopia by Travis Scott. Now, this was an album that transported me to a different world the first time I heard it, and it still does to this day. This is a special, special album, and Travis made that 5-year wait worth it. Opening your album with something as abrasive and as unique as Hyena deserves applause. Hearing Travis rap over mandolin strings is nuts, and you're getting those really impactful drums on that song as well, which just makes for such an energetic opening. Then you go to something like a Thank God, which comes right after, and that track is just so multifaceted. You don't know where it's going to go, and then in that second half when the strings come in and Travis really starts rapping his ass off and talking his shit about how he's not happy with how the Grammys went down last time with Astroworld. But then, of course, you're getting songs like On My Eyes. Going from that tranquil opening to that just, it's like you were traveling through outer space in that second half with Travis rapping at these supersonic speeds beside you, and just the synth work on that track as well. You were getting a star-studded feature list from Playboi Carti to Beyonce to Drake to even Westside Gunn on Lost Forever. Again, Alchemist even has credits on Utopia. Just Travis is a master curator and one of the best that we have ever seen. And Utopia truly does take you to another world. And the concept of it as well, with Utopia being wherever you are, not actually this specific place. It's just Utopia is wherever you want it to be. It's just such a beautiful message in the album as well. All right, 2024. This was such a stacked year. There's so many albums I want to shout out. Samurai by Lupe Fiasco. One of the most creative concepts I've ever seen with that whole Amy Winehouse as a battle rapper thing. Amazing stuff. The Auditorium by Common and Pete Rock. It takes you back to a different era of hip-hop, but it sounds so timeless. It's such a lovely listen. Doechii and J. Cole had incredible mixtapes, but this is an album discussion, so we're going to exclude them for this conversation. Future and Metro, obviously, with We Don't Trust You, the impact that had on the game is like unlike anything we've seen in recent memory. Nothing's going to top that, but you're also getting great chemistry between Metro's beats and Future's raps. You're getting some all-time Metro production on something like a Like That or Everyday Hustle. But in my opinion, the two best albums of 2024 are The Death of Slim Shady, which is the first one we're going to talk about, M's return album after 4 years since Music to be Murdered By. One last hurrah for this side of Eminem, the shady side. And I think the first 13 tracks are executed great. You're in the middle of that conflict between M and Shady, starting off with Renaissances, and intro is nuts. It feels like you are listening to an Eminem from 2003 who time traveled to speak on topics like Kendrick and J. Cole, Wayne, and Ye. It's crazy starting off with that. As short as the intro is, it's impeccable rhymes and just an incredible opening track. And getting those conceptual tracks like A Guilty Conscience 2. Then when Shady's killed off, you get that more mature and vulnerable M in something like A Temporary, another beautiful ballad for Haley. And then of course Somebody Save Me, which is another track with M talking about his overdose and how it affected him. And I think they're just incredible tracks. You're getting Fuel with Jid, which gives you two of the best rapping performances of the whole decade, with I feel like M taking the cake with that final verse with his use of assonance and C alliteration. It's nuts. But my other favorite album of 2024, GNX by Kendrick Lamar. Now I've actually done a video on this album where I go through its concept. This is a much deeper album than people are realizing, but during this part of the video I actually got a call from Gino's Music, so the audio from the call coming through was in that section, so I can't use it unless you guys want to hear a ringtone, but I don't want to make you do that, so I'm just going to re-record it now. GNX is this just perfect amalgamation, as Kendrick said, of banging beats and just top tier lyricism, which was his goal with the album, and he accomplished that perfectly. You're getting such a variety of tracks. Well, yeah, a lot of them are more accessible. It's not to the album's detriment, as a lot of people make it out to be in the Kendrick fandom. The fact you were getting such a simple yet intelligent concept woven throughout these tracks that can be played in like these settings that most people would argue Kendrick can't be played in is crazy, and he really just proves how versatile of an artist he is, giving you these West Coast bangers like a TV offer, a Squabble Up, and getting something as unique as Hey Now, and that bridge that happens halfway through. It's incredible. The subject matter on this album as well, like check out my video so you can catch it all, because this album goes so much deeper than people realize. But then getting tracks like Reincarnated about the devil's story embodying musicians, or The Heart Part 6 talking about Kendrick's come up from hype man to executive, and then of course Gloria, his ode to lyricism and the art of writing. Incredible. We're not going to talk about 2025 yet because we're only in February as I'm recording this, probably March when it comes out. But yeah, what do you guys think of the two best albums of every year of the decade so far? Let me know in the comments below. Did I get it right? Did I fuck it up? Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and hit notifications so you don't miss any more videos. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.